In the deep history of life on Earth, nature hit on a genius shortcut called Hox genes. These are essentially the master switches of development. They're the reason a fruit fly knows to put a leg on its thorax and not its face. Instead of evolving brand new instructions for every single appendage, nature just copy-pastes the same core code and tweaks the expression. It's the ultimate evolutionary efficiency move. But for about 40 years, the American classroom lived in a world that was the exact opposite of a Hox gene. We lived in the era of the spirit duplicator. If you wanted a version B of a quiz, you weren't just tweaking the expression. You were manually typing a new master stencil, smelling purple solvent until you saw stars, and hand cranking a drum like you were powering a small village. In the 70s and 80s, making a variation was a physical feat of strength. The weird thing is, even though we've traded the purple ink for PDFs, a lot of us are still hand cranking our materials. We're still reinventing the wheel for every retake, every subplan, every review sheet. Today, we're going to learn how to be more like nature. We're talking about moving from the hand crank era to the Hox gene era, using AI to take the highly conserved core of your best materials and generate all the variations you need in the time it takes to brew a cup of coffee. Hey, I'm Peter Wise. I've been teaching for 23 years, 18 of that in Kentwood, and I teach chemistry, physics, and the science of cooking. This podcast is for secondary teachers who want practical ideas that actually fit real classrooms. And today, we're talking about how to save time on assessments and materials without watering them down. Okay, here's the thing. This is not really an episode about tools, it's a workflow episode. The key idea is that a good quiz, a good review sheet, or a good support document all have a core that you already trust, the learning target, the evidence you care about, and the level of rigor. The mistake we make is acting like every retake or review version has to be born as a completely new document. It doesn't. The rule for today is simple: keep the core, change the expression. Pause for 5 seconds and jot that down. Seriously, keep the core, change the expression. If the target moved, you don't make a variation. You make a different assignment. First, alternative forms. This is probably the cleanest win in the whole episode. You've got a quiz you already trust. 5 questions, 10 questions, it doesn't matter. You know what it measures. Instead of building version B from scratch, use AI to change the surface features while protecting the evidence. That might mean changing the numbers in a physics problem, changing the historical context of a sourcing prompt, or swapping the literary excerpt. But you aren't changing the thinking. Version B should not feel like a punishment or a gift. It should feel like a fresh path to the same evidence. So if I were saying this to students, it might sound like this. This is the same target, just a different scenario. I changed the path, not the skill. Version B is just a fresh look at the same understanding. Let me give you one from my world. In the science of cooking, the core might be understanding the Maillard reaction. One version of the quiz might ask about searing a steak. Version B might swap that out for roasting coffee beans or toasting bread. Same chemical core, different kitchen expression. That's the move. And what the students do is pretty simple. They take a fresh version that gives them a legitimate makeup or retake path without just recycling the same item set everybody has already seen. What am I looking for? Same reasoning moves, similar misconceptions, similar kinds of explanations. Not identical answers, obviously, but the same kind of evidence. If this goes sideways, and sometimes it will, the fix is usually not dramatic. It's just a quick equivalence check. Compare 2 original items and 2 new items side by side. Ask yourself, does this still demand the same thinking, or did the new version actually get easier, harder, or just weird? Because here is where it gets weird. AI is very good at making things look parallel. That is not the same as being parallel. So the move is not generate and trust, the move is generate and inspect. Next, once you already have the core, you should not have to build the practice from scratch either. This is move 2. Spin off targeted practice and review from the same core. Research suggests retrieval practices, actually pulling information out of your brain, tend to beat passive review. In other words, students usually learn more by trying to recall and check than by staring at notes and hoping something sticks. Sources are down in the doobly-doo. So if students are struggling with one specific concept, do not build a giant review packet that looks like a phone book. Just make a small, targeted set. 3 questions, maybe 6. Focus on that one weak spot. And then add a short answer check routine. Show how you know. Find the error. Why is this answer reasonable? Something that makes thinking visible. If I were saying this out loud in class, it might sound like this. I'm not giving you more work. I'm giving you more of the specific thing you need. Check the answer, then check the reasoning. If you got it right by luck, the explanation will show that. This is a little annoying, which is part of why students remember it. What students do here is practice the same skill again, then verify, explain, or correct. And what I'm looking for is fewer repeated mistakes, stronger self-correction, and better transfer on the next check. If this all goes sideways, the usual problem is that the extra practice turns into more pages instead of better practice. So here's the rule. Don't just make more pages, make better retrieval. And this is not just a science move. I can picture an ELA colleague using the same workflow for a literary analysis paragraph. Maybe students are working on analyzing how a character shift is revealed through dialogue. Instead of building a whole new retake prompt from scratch, they ask AI for 2 alternative short excerpts that still require the same move, claim, evidence, explanation. Then they generate a guided practice sheet with sentence stems and 1 weak sample paragraph for students to critique before they redraft. Notice what changed there. The passage changed. The scaffolding changed. The core thinking did not. And what are you listening for? A defensible claim, relevant textual evidence, clear explanation connecting the two, less summary, more interpretation. Now, let's push this one step further because this is bigger than quizzes. Move 3 is converting core materials into support versions. Here's where it gets useful fast. You already have notes, a reading, a slide deck, maybe a video, maybe a class summary, and now you need something for an absent student, a sub-day, a catch-up folder, or a student who needs a more structured entry point back into learning. This is not a new lesson. That's a support version. So you take the material you already have and convert it into something like a guided question organizer, a vocabulary bridge, or just a simple what you missed summary. Then, and this is the part that matters, you add 1 short transfer or 1 explanation prompt at the end. Because the support sheet should point back to the learning, not become busy work. So teacher talk here might sound like, this sheet here is to help you re-enter the learning. The last question matters most because that's where you show me understanding. This support is not substitute thinking. What students do is use the support to access the content, then complete 1 short task that shows understanding. And what I'm listening for is not just completion, I'm looking for 1 meaningful response to that final prompt. And again, if this goes sideways, the problem is usually over scaffolding. You made the support so supportive that the thinking disappears. Helpful support is not the same as easier thinking. A social studies teacher could do the same thing with primary sources. Add just enough vocabulary help and sourcing guidance so students can get into the document, but keep the final prompt focused on credibility, perspective, or motive. The support helps them read. The prompt still makes them think. And a math teacher could use the same workflow to create parallel versions of solving systems or analyzing functions by changing coefficients, graphs, or context while keeping the same strategy choice. The quick check is simple. Are students still doing the same reasoning, or did I just create different arithmetic? So again, same idea, different content. You are not making a brand new organism every time. You are protecting the core and changing the expression. Now, a quick warning section, because this is where good workflow can quietly become bad workflow. The danger is not speed, it's drift. AI is very good at making things look parallel that are not actually parallel. It might generate a version B that is accidentally much easier. It might give you weak distractors. It might turn a support sheet into something so watered down that the thinking is gone. The mistake people make is thinking the time-saving move is, I don't have to review this. No, the time-saving move is, I don't have to build this from zero. You're still the one protecting the alignment. You're still the one checking the rigor. Remember, the basic rule from this whole series: AI drafts, teachers finalize. And just briefly, because it helps here, low stakes checks can support learning, not just grading. So some of those generated materials do not need to become new grades. Some can be practice, some can be feedback, some can just be a cleaner way to get the students another shot at the thinking. Because if every new version becomes another formal score, congratulations, you have saved time by creating more work. That's a very school-shaped problem. Let me give you another classroom example because I think this is where the workflow really clicks. A teacher has one quiz ready for Friday. Good quiz, trusts it. But now 3 students are gone for an activity. 2 more need to take a retake path, and a handful are still shaky on one section. Old workflow? 3 separate documents from scratch, probably late at night, probably while mildly irritated. New workflow? Start with the original quiz, generate a clean version B, then spin off a short targeted practice set just for the week section. Then make a one-page catch-up guide from the class notes with one short apply it question at the end. Now your time goes into checking the quality, not formatting the margins. That's the shift. Less friction around the same bar, not a lower bar, just better workflow. And if you happen to be using something like Gemini or Notebook LM in a district managed space, fine. But the tool is not the point. A tool agnostic version is just this: start with one trusted core document and use whatever drafting helps you to produce clean variations faster. So here's your try it this week. Do not do this for a whole unit. Pick one thing, one quiz, one lab conclusion, one math problem set you already trust. Make 2 spin-offs, a clean version B and one short targeted practice set. That's it. Success this week looks like having a legitimate retake path ready before the student even asks for it. And it looks like students who need more reps getting focused practice without you rebuilding everything from scratch. So let's land this. You do not need to hand crank every version of your materials. You do not need to live in the spirit duplicator era just because school sometimes feels like it. Keep the core, change the expression. That's the move. Use AI for the variation layer, not the judgment layer. Let it help with the first drafting, the recombining, and the repetitive setup. You protect the target. You protect the evidence. You protect the rigor. And honestly, you protect your time. If you try this and a version goes sideways, if you end up with a quiz that's clearly cursed, send me those questions. Those are the ones we actually learn from. I'm Peter Wise. Thank you for listening.